Good morning and happy October. Welcome to the Lioness Den, where I am LA Wilson, your guest host for today. I am so excited for our special guest today. And after this opener, I'll be privileged to introduce her. All right. We are so excited for this Saturday morning for our special guest. You are used to seeing her in this seat, hosting and interviewing everybody else. But this morning, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing the creator of the Lioness Den, Miss Lydia Chapman. Good morning.
Good morning, and how
This
are
is
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I know this is so different for you, but I am really excited. This is fun.
I see. You seem to be enjoying it already,
I
quite a bit.
am. I am. I was really excited when you asked me. I was like, oh, we're going to have such a good time. All right, everyone. This is the creator. If this is your first time tuning in, usually you will see Miss Chapman in the host chair interviewing everyone else, asking provoking questions. But this morning, we get to peek a little into her and hear her give us a word of encouragement. As I said, it's happy October. And for this month, we celebrate what the Lioness Den likes to call the Survivor Series. But the first question I want Ms. Chapman to answer, some of us may not know, why did you feel the need to create the Lioness Den?
So it is simply because I think a lot of times we as women, people say women have everything, but I think the one thing that we don't normally feel that we have is a safe space. And so the Lioness Den came about as a safe space, a real place to chill. That came about because at the time, um, it was before, let me be honest, it was before the pandemic. We didn't know that we were going to be virtual and stuck in the house. And there were many topics that I wanted to discuss with friends in the world that I didn't have the chance to discuss. And so the Linus thing came about, but it was also, and y'all know that I'm not a very, where I just always want to push spiritual on you, but it was a very spiritual thing for me because at the time, my cousin Bishop Mark was saying, Lydia, you need to start a women's group. You need to start a women's group. And I was like, I don't want to start a women's group. I don't want to start a women's group. I don't want to start a women's group. And in my time with God, the Lioness Den was birthed because he said the Lioness Den. And the Lioness Den is because a lot of times people don't understand that the lion is the male, the lion is the male of that species, but the lioness, she does just about everything. And many times that's how we feel as women. We do just about everything. The lioness, she goes out, she hunts for the food. She takes care of the children. She is the one who basically runs the pride. The lion is the one who protects the pride and makes sure that no one else comes in and, runs through his family. So he protects the family, but the lioness, she builds the family, she rears the family, she feeds the family. And that's what a lot of women do without the understanding of that's what they're doing. And so thus we have the Lioness Den.
Absolutely. We in the song many years ago, I am every woman.
Every
and
woman.
and sometimes we forget all the gifts and talents we possess and all that we do in a 24-hour period. And we know some men are watching, and we are not kicking you to the side at all,
Nope.
but we're
We love you
inviting
guys.
you. Yes, we're inviting you into our space to see from a different perspective, because men and women are different. And sometimes we always look through one lens, and men
Hmm.
don't understand why women are. So this is an opportunity for you to get a little peek into maybe how women think and how we feel about the lives that we lead, right? And we definitely
Absolutely.
are lioness with a lot to carry.
Yeah.
So for the month of October, you started last year with deeming it Survivor Series. Where did you get that idea, and what is the intention of Survivor Series for the month of October?
So again, Bishop Mark, I talk about him a lot because Bishop Mark is just I would say is my number one cheerleader, the one who always pushes me to move forward, even when I'm moving slowly. And so with the whole women's thing, he said, you need to do a women's conference. I said, I ain't doing no conference, sir. You're going too far now. And so my compromise for what I wanted to do was the Survivor Series, but I didn't want it to be and please, church people, don't get offended as I say what I'm about to say, but I didn't want it to be a church thing because sometimes when we create church things, we don't include everyone. And I want it to be an all-inclusive thing. And so I had moved to, another state. I moved to the state of North Carolina a couple of years ago, and I was fighting about doing this conference. And last year on my drive into Maryland, I was in the car, stuck in traffic, guys. Let me tell you something, stuck in traffic. So, you're not that happy when you're stuck in traffic. I was stuck in traffic. And while I was stuck in traffic, God said Survivor Series. And I said, Survivor Series? I don't want to do that. And then he began to share with me that we survived so much. And at that point, we were surviving COVID. Mm-hmm. We were surviving COVID. And we needed inspiration during surviving COVID after losing so many and going through so much, because we talked about the loss of people, mm-hmm. but what we didn't talk about was the loss of jobs. Yeah. Because, you had so many people who did not die, but now they no longer had a job. We didn't talk about the loss of homes because as quiet as it was kept and as positive as social media and regular media kept it with, there are all of these programs to keep you in your house. There were people who lost their homes. We didn't talk about the mental health and how many of our children are now plagued with mental health issues because they lost something doing this. But we did talk about, everything is coming back to normal. Well, what is normal now? What is it? And the major part of all of that is that we survived such a major catastrophe in the history of man, and we're still here. Now we have the Survivor Series because everyone now has a story of being a survivor in some way.
Amen. Amen. Everyone has a story. Sometimes we don't realize that we have a story. I think, especially as women, especially if you're a spouse or a parent, you sometimes find yourself moving in so many directions. You never stop to realize, like sometimes people have to point out all that you do and all that you give because you're never worried about self sometimes. It's a popular saying now, self-care is not selfish. And it's not. And as women who wear a lot of hats, we have to remember a part of our wellness, a part of surviving what we have been through is learning how to stop and have a moment for self. Because self-care, because the old people and saints used to say it this way: if you're not good to yourself, you ain't no good to nobody else, right? So that's where the self-care. I can't take care of my family if I'm not taking care of myself. Because if I don't take care of myself, I won't be here to take care of my family.
Exactly.
But you make a great point about going through COVID. It wasn't just about losing people, and we mourn those who were lost, and we don't make light of it. But it was about losing other things, and now, while everybody says, oh, the pandemic is over and we're coming out, but what do we look like coming out? What do we do? Because this is not the normal of 2018, 2019. This is a new normal that we're functioning in. While some of us are free and acting like nothing's wrong, we still have those who act like COVID is around the corner and wear masks and double masks and don't want people to come over their house, don't want to touch anything, still ordering everything from Amazon, still, getting their groceries delivered. So we have two extremes of normal now, and where you fit into that and how you survive not only COVID, but the everyday life issues that came along in life outside of COVID. And so that is great that God inspired you with the Survivor series. And hopefully, everyone that's watching, I encourage you, if you didn't see the series last year, they're still available on social media. So go back and scroll a little and watch the Survivor series from last year as well. I believe it will encourage you a lot. But on today, our lovely creator of the Lioness Den is going to bless us in her own way of how she sees Survivor Series and how she is a survivor herself. So I ask that you sit back and relax and get excited about the words of encouragement that is about to come from our very own Lydia Chapman.
Thank you, Lady Wilson. Thank you so much. You know, guys, it's good to have good friends who will step in and help when help is needed. And, you know, Lady Wilson is like a sister to me. So I thank you for agreeing to host today. This month is the Survivor Series month, and we are focusing on Life Happens this month. And I wanted to open up this month because I think, like all of us, I've also been through life happening. And many times when life happens, we tend to let it happen to us, and we don't do anything but sit there and say, what can I do? But a lot of times what we've learned over the past couple of years especially is we must survive through life happening. We must survive through life happening. And I have survived through many life happening situations myself. If we go back to 2018, as Lady Wilson was talking about in our opening, COVID wasn't here yet. But 2018 became a major life happen situation for me and my family because during that year we had 3 back-to-back deaths. And I don't know how you would deal with it, but I'll tell you how I dealt with it. In February, early February, my grandfather passed. And I happened to end up being the first one there, you know, after he passed at the nursing home. Wasn't the easiest thing at all, I can promise you that. But we were always taught that if you're the first one to arrive, you have to say the last prayer. So I went in and I saw him. And my daughter was with me, but I couldn't take her in because that's not what you do with your children. So sometimes you got to walk alone. So I went in and I said, you know, the last prayer that he always told us to pray, you know, Father, in the name of Jesus, you know, if it be your will, raise him right now in Jesus' name. And I did that, and I was by myself because everybody was still on their way. Lo and behold, right as we had his funeral, the day after my father dies. So we not finished with my grandfather, and here come my father, and he dies right after that. After calling me that morning before he passed, he called me and said, I'm taking myself to the hospital. I'm gonna be okay. You know, I just got to go to the hospital, but I'm fine. It's nothing major. He was being prompted by someone that he was living with that he needed to get to the hospital, but he felt like it wasn't major. So he told me, I'm going down here. I'll call you later and tell you what they say, just to get a call from the hospital to say that he had passed and that he wasn't with us anymore. And so that was another whole finishing a funeral. We're walking into the next funeral all in less than 4 weeks. And so I'm currently living with my grandparents when my grandfather died and my father died. So I'm there with my grandmother, helping to take care of her. And she ends up not feeling well one day in May. So we are February. My father dies March, which is 4 weeks after my grandfather. And then here we come to early May, and I take her to the hospital, and they say, oh, she's going to have to stay. And we're there for a few days, and they tell me, you know, there's really nothing we can do. She's going to pass. But my grandmother is a woman of faith, so we pray, and the doctor comes back and say there is one surgery that we can do, but she has to pass all the tests. Now, understand that my grandmother is in her 80s, and so it is unlikely that she will pass all of the tests. But we still, because she wants to do it, we go into preparing her for all of these tests. Life happens, y'all. I want y'all to understand life happens. And so she goes through all of the tests and pass all of the tests. And we're all praising God because now God is on our side and we are victorious. She's going to have the surgery. We're going to go home and everything is going to be okay. I tell you, everything wasn't okay because when she went into surgery, she didn't come out of the surgery. Here we go again. Life is happening. So in a matter of just a couple of months, not enough time to grieve one person, 3 people have passed away. And life is now beginning to happen. And me, I feel like I'm as strong as ever because I've made it through the 3 deaths and I've made it through the 3 funerals. And I get up after my time from work to go to work and I can't get up. And I don't understand why I can't get up because I'm not physically hurt. There is no physical ailment going on that would keep me from getting up. But I get up, I go to the bathroom, I come back, I just can't get myself together. I try to get ready, I just can't get myself together. So I push myself the first day to go to work and I walk in a job and something that I haven't done 1, 2, 3 times is cry. And so I find myself in the job and I'm a mess and I can't get up because I'm crying. Y'all, life happens. And life was happening and I had on such an armor that I didn't realize that life was happening to me. Some of y'all might understand how that is because life is happening to you and you think that you're making it through. But in fact, it's coming and it's coming faster than you can handle it. So life was happening faster than I could handle it. And this is when we still pray, we still fast, we do all of that. But now God is nudging you. It's time for you to find someone to talk to because you need a doctor. You need a physician. He put him here for us. You need a mental health professional. And I had to do it, y'all. I had to do it. I had to go and talk to somebody and understand what was going on, that I was in a case of grief over 3 family members that I had not dealt with, that I felt that I was strong enough to keep going, and it had come and at this point overtaken me. Life is happening and it's happening for all of us. And so this is why things like the Survivor Series, we need to have them and we need to discuss, hey, life is happening. Are you being overtaken? Are you drowning or are you living? Because we have to live through life happening. So many times people grieve themselves to death through broken heart syndrome. And that could have been me. But thank you, God. And thank you to our mental health professionals for being there to say, God said, go somewhere. And I was blessed enough to be able to go to a professional to walk me through life happening. With that being said, that's an actual story that happened in my life. But there are so many other Bible stories, and all of us have stories. You have to think about life happening when you talk about the woman with the issue of blood. She's a survivor. This woman, 12 years, was bleeding. And in Jewish law, she really couldn't go around anybody. So think of what she's surviving. She may have lost friends, family, a husband, maybe even her children, because she can't have contact with them because she's now dirty. And she's constantly bleeding for 12 years. The Bible tells us already that she had spent money on all types of physicians and no one had helped her. And all she wanted to do was survive. That's what she was trying to do throughout this whole 12 years, is trying to survive a life happening to her. The Bible doesn't tell us that she did anything for this to happen. It just tells us that she was bleeding. And so she's bleeding and she's trying to survive this and she's doing everything in her power. And then she hears a man named Jesus passing through. And he's a miracle worker. He's a healer. And so as she's trying to survive life happening to her, she hears the good news that Jesus is coming through. So she decides to press her way with her constant bleeding to get to Jesus. Now, ladies, we know about bleeding. So we ain't even got to really even, go there, because we know firsthand, most of us know firsthand what it is to bleed. Imagine, I just want you to take a second and imagine 12 years of that constantly without stopping. So she has no energy because blood is constantly leaving her body. More than likely, she's lost a lot of weight because blood is constantly leaving her body. She's frail. And now, because life is happening to her, she has to pull herself together and press her way out through the crowd because Jesus is famous. He popular, y'all. He popular. He like TD Jakes in the crowd. He popular. Our modern day thought would be, if you're trying to get to Bishop Jakes, I've been at services where there's so many people trying to get to him. They giving an offering just to shake his hand. Think about that. They're giving an offering for the opportunity to shake his hand because they believe they're going to be blessed by shaking his hand. But this woman had heard of Jesus, and she believed if she could just touch his garment, she would be made whole. So she pressed her frail body, her weak body, through the dusty crowd on the ground to touch Jesus' garment. And she makes it. How many times are we pressing for something, and as we get there and as we win, we make it, and we realize that we're living. Life is not just happening to us. That's what happened with her. Once she touched the hem of his garment, she was made whole. And then she was afraid because I didn't even ask to touch his garment. How many of us get there where I didn't even know I was going to be good at this? I didn't even know that me being good at this was going to hurt my sister or brother's feelings. And so then you're not sure if you should share your testimony of your overcoming when life happens. But understand that when she told Jesus everything, her faith has made her whole. That's what he said. Sometimes we put more into it when God is bringing us out as survivors. We have to celebrate surviving when life happens so that we can live through that situation. If you don't live through the situation, if you don't testify about the situation, how do you help the next person? And how do you really walk in victory? Because survivors are walking in victory. When people have cancer and they ring the bell, they're ringing the bell for the victory over cancer, the victory going through all of those months of chemo, the victory of getting through that radiation. So you have to make some noise once you survive life happening to you in your situation. Just as the boy that Jesus healed who was blind, you got to survive and make some noise. Everybody else wanted to deal with who sinned, because a lot of times we have miserable friends. Y'all, let's be honest about it. There are some God-sent people who can be a miserable friend when you're going through life happening. So we have some miserable friends. And so when Jesus, as I pivot to this story, when Jesus healed the young man who was blind, instead of the people rejoicing because this young man was healed, they wanted to know who sinned. Well, who sinned? Was it his parents? Was it him? And when life is happening to you, many times people are saying, well, what did you do? Because you did something for life to happen to you. I ask you today, what do you think I did for 3 people to die, one after the other? I don't have to wait for your answer because I know the answer, nothing. And many times when life is happening the way it's happening, you probably have done nothing because life happens. And so the bottom line about the story when Jesus healed the young man is they should have been celebrating that the young man was healed, because this was a young man who could not take care of himself. All he could do was beg and ask somebody else to do it for him. But now that he has survived life happening to him, he can get up and do something for himself. He can help his parents. He can move on. So he didn't mind saying that Jesus had healed him. He didn't even care that they were worried about Jesus healed him on the Sabbath day. When life happens and you survive that situation, you really, really don't care. And you really, really shouldn't care, because what's going on right now with you is that God has brought you out in whatever way that he's done it. Be it through counseling, be it through you survived surgery, be it through you were on your knees, whatever it was, God brought you out. And you survived life happening. So today, as I hasten to my close, I want to bring up one more story as I pivot to Job. So Job was actually being made an example of, and life was happening to him. He lost everything. He lost his kids. He lost his cattle. He was losing everything and getting back to those miserable friends. Those miserable friends wanted Job to admit that he had sinned against God, and that's why God was doing this to him. As you're going through, sometimes you got to drop some people who are not going to help you get through. If they're not there to prop you up and to pray with you, sometimes you got to say, hey, if they don't have a kind word, hey, not now. And it may only be for a season or it may be for a lifetime. But as you're going through a life happening situation, you really don't have time to figure out why you on my shoulder pulling me down. I have to survive life happening to me right now. And if I take the time to feed into the negativity that you're bringing to me, not only will life happen, but it will overtake me and I may not make it out. And so when those miserable friends come along, because they will and they do, understand, dismiss them, and continue to move forward. Because God always has a ram in the bush to help you get through your life happening situation. I encourage you, survive life happening. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our guest host, Lady Wilson. You're muted, sis. You're muted. You're muted, sis. You're muted.
I wanted to make sure I didn't interrupt any of that. I'm like, come on, she can get going. That was a little too, like you sitting in church and you replying back to the preacher. You ain't even worried about the time. I was like, come on, sis. She about to stop? Why? Come on, y'all. I know y'all enjoyed that. And I know you are sitting, watching on your phone. If you're streaming it from YouTube, watching it on your TV. I know you like, you could she stop. I know all y'all sitting there like that right now. Come on, show some love in the comments. Make sure you comment, giving our sister some feedback on the wonderful word inspiration she just gave us and the wonderful job she does presenting the Lioness Den and things like Survivor Series to you. Let me just say, as you're talking, I'm like, yep, that. Let's talk about that first story with the woman of blood. Ladies, anybody who suffer with lady issues, even I had an episode where it was 6 weeks straight. And I was like, Jesus. I was about to go out of my mind after 6 weeks. I was like, Lord, I don't know what is going on, but it got to stop. And I thought about the woman for 12 years.
12 years, honey. 12
Oh,
years.
let me tell you, once mine stopped, thank God for my husband who laid his hands on me. He's a man of God and prayed, and God heard his prayer. Praise Jesus. I was like, I was about to lose my mind after 6 weeks. So I know I would have been straight crazy suicidal by 12 years.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have been there out of my mind. But
you gotta, Krisha, think about this. So in preparing for today, but you got to think about this. You got 12 years. Now we have to take. How many of us have to take iron supplements to keep our iron up? And then you're constantly bleeding. So now not only are you bleeding, but your energy is like just passing through. You don't have any energy, and you still got to get up and drag yourself.
Right. And talk about isolation. So if y'all don't know, back in the day in Jewish culture, even still now, when you go, if you have Jewish friends that you talk to, those who are we refer to as Orthodox, the husband and wife still have separate beds in their bedrooms. Or when the wife is having her cycle, if it's not a separate bed in the bedroom, she goes to another room. So the Orthodox Jews to this day still separate themselves when the wife is having their cycle. But imagine, doesn't speak of a husband. If she did, he probably was gone because that was 12 years of nothing. He probably was out after 1 year. She is totally isolated because back then, everything you touched was unclean. Right. So talk about isolation from COVID. At least we could still be with our friends who was in the house. She was isolated from everybody. Suffering alone for 12 long years.
Yep, 12 years.
But the silver lining to that was the push, and it necessarily wasn't the garment. We know Jesus had all power, but the garment of your faith. Your faith has made you whole. Some of us just need to increase our faith on today. Your faith is not about, because Jesus not walking the earth in flesh no more. So we can't go through a crowd and touch his garment. And no matter who the popular preacher is, I love my man of God. He is my husband, and I believe God works through him and he has power. But at the end of the day, I can touch him all day long. But if my faith is not there, it's nothing me touching him is going to do. It's my faith in him. Then we go to the second story that you referenced, was the boy who was blind. How many of us, I think sometimes as humans, we're almost like taught to accentuate the negative, right? We're taught
Yes.
to look for the bad. Who sinned? Who sinned? And understand in that culture, it was thought of that if something bad was to your child that you birthed, it was because you had did something bad, right? That was their thought
Right.
process. But even in today, when sometimes you call somebody and explain what then happened to you, they be like, "Well, what you do?" Like, they did nothing.
Exactly.
Idea why this is happening to me. But instead of you trying to comfort me, ask me what I do.
Right.
That's we just talked about how back in the day when we used to have physical telephones, we would hang up on people so they could hear that in their ear. That's today. I just wish I had that app, like it was an app to hang up on people when they being real negative, so they could still get that in their ear because it's almost like ingrained in us. We have to unlearn being so negative. We have
Right.
to unlearn looking for the bad. We have to,
Yes.
it's very few people who automatically try to look for the positive, try to look for the greatness, try to look for the strength. It's like this society's almost programmed us to always look for, oh, what you do. Oh, it had to be
Yep.
something, so we have to unlearn that behavior, and it's not always easy. You have to unlearn, and you have to be better, especially if you call yourself a friend. Right now, there's some
Right.
people just in life you have to disconnect yourself from. But sometimes sincere friends, it's just their natural inclination and be like, well, what you do? But it's just in us. But it wasn't about what his parents or anything
Right.
he had done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was excited when we talking about surviving. He survived being blind for however many years, and then this man come along and gives me my sight. He was mad that it happened on the Sabbath, as you said. He wasn't worried about the Sabbath. He didn't care
Jude did,
what day it
Jude did not
was.
care.
He didn't care what day it was. He was excited about the blessing he had received. He didn't care. He probably didn't even care. Gee, thank you, Lord. It could have been anybody who had touched him to give him his sight back. He was excited while everybody else was worried about to throw rocks that had happened on the Sabbath. But the boy, it wasn't his fault. And that leads right into Job, as you said. Honey, when you read the story of Job, Job was minding his business.
His own business.
Was minding his business. Not doing, he was praying over his children, praying over his wife, giving God praise for all that he had. He wasn't arrogant. He was just sitting, chilling, living the life.
Living the
Not
life.
knowing that up above his head, God was setting him up.
Yes.
Let's understand. Sometimes God set us up. Let's be real. Sometimes God set it, and you be like, wait a minute, Jesus, wait a minute. I asked for none of this, right?
Mm-mm.
I asked for none of this. Come on, that man lost all his children
Yes.
in one day. In one day.
Right.
He lost all his children, right? And it was all because we survive things, and some of it is part of God's plan, right?
Yep.
Right. You mentioned your story, and as you were telling your story, when you sit back and think about it, I've never had 3 people that were close to me die back to back. I've heard those stories, right? That I lost such and such, and especially older couples who've been married for a while. Some people lose their grandmother or their grandfather, and a couple of months later, the spouse leaves, and they was like that broken heart syndrome, as you said. They were together for so long, they just like, the old folks used to say, he came back for, or she came back for him. A couple months later, they're gone. But as you sit and listen to your heart, kind of like, wow. If everybody would just think about 3 people that's close to you right now, if you lost them in the course of 5 months, right? I know a friend of mine who it was a loss their uncle, then their godmother passed, then their father passed.
Right.
And it was literally in the course of about 6 or 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
That can mentally just take you out. And sometimes, as you said, it wasn't your body was fine. And we lessen how our mental
Yes.
and our emotional
Yes.
can affect us. And especially in the African American community, for years, it's like, get yourself together, put your big girl panties on and move on, right? We've
Yeah.
taught from various reasons. We have just been taught to be strong.
Yep.
You put your, as you said, you had your armor on. You put it on and you move forward because we got to
Yep.
get past this, right? You got to live to face another day. So a lot of us, especially in the African American community, have been taught, ingrained, you
Yep.
buck up, keep your head up. And a lot of our men, but men don't cry.
Yep.
You a man, and we bottle it, we push it, and then we have episodes like you said, you got to work and you were we can't function, and people like, what's wrong with you? Why you can't, you like you said, physically you were fine, but mentally and emotionally, life had happened to take you to a place that you yourself didn't understand, right? And sometimes I think all of us find ourselves in a place after different things in life happen that you just sit there and you I know I have. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to fix it.
Yep.
I don't know where it went wrong. I don't know what I did somebody else do. And you find yourselves in moments that you sit there, and sometimes I just look at the wall like, okay, God, I don't know what's going on. My mind ain't right. As you said, physically, we all good, but right,
Mm-hmm.
my mental is on another
On a
plane.
whole different
My
page.
mental is gone. And because again, I can only talk about what I know, and that's the African American community. We don't go talk to nobody because you crazy if you go talk to
Yeah. I
somebody,
ain't
right?
crazy.
You ain't crazy, but
Mm-hmm.
it is beauty in the fact when we can admit, yeah, I lost it. And guess what? I went and saw one of those doctors that God gifted us with. It's amazing how we praise God for the invention of a computer, the invention of the mobile phone. We do understand that God was graceful enough to send people to school to
Right.
learn medicine
Right.
to be able to help you and me. But
Right.
we are so afraid that going to a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist is just so no, we don't do those. We don't do that.
Yeah.
But they went to
Lucretia.
medical. Uh-huh.
So, and this is the one thing I want people to understand the most is that just because you have to talk to somebody doesn't mean you're crazy.
Crazy. It doesn't.
It's just that you have uh, something has come upon you that's so heavy mentally that if you don't talk to somebody, you could be crazy.
Crazy.
You could have a snap. You could go beyond that place where just talking to somebody could bring you back. And the question is that really what you want to do? Or do you want to face this head on and do some of that stuff that they've taught us, especially in our community? Buck up. Part of bucking up is going to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
Bucking up. Part of getting yourself together, men don't cry, go talk to somebody. Because you'll find out that there is an open door where you can cry, where there is a place where you can feel like you don't have it all together and you about to go that next mile that will say, stop, let me help you. Take my hand and let's do this together. So that's the one thing, mental health is big for me, and we do a lot of it on this channel because it's really big because you don't know a lot of times when you're reaching your breaking point, but you feel the pressure.
Absolutely.
You feel the pressure. We feel the pressure. I mean, I know you felt the pressure before. You feel the pressure, and that pressure is pushing you to say, let somebody help you. Let somebody help you. Let somebody help you. You're not an island. Let somebody help you.
Absolutely.
I turn it back over to you. I just
No,
want
no,
to say that
no,
one
no,
little point.
absolutely. As you said, we're not an island. We just try to handle it ourselves. And no matter how we may look at other people who snapped, who broke, we're so critical when we hear people do stuff that we in our own being couldn't imagine doing.
But for the grace of God.
But for the grace of God. I use the example as, they look at women who say they suffer with postpartum. And how some of them say, I didn't understand, but I didn't even want to hold my baby. When they cried, I stuck them in a closet. And people make women feel bad about that. But I never did it, but let me tell you, I can understand it. When life is happening to you and you have 10 things coming to you at one time, a crying baby will make you lose it.
Right.
And unless you've been in a situation similar, don't put your mouth on these women who suffer with the, because it's real. I did not have postpartum, but let me tell you, when life happens, I can see as a mother, I can see my children are 3 years apart. When I always tell the story of that, when I had my son, my daughter wanted to go back to the diaper because she saw me changing my son's diaper, and she was 3. I was like, oh, no, we're not doing this. I take my hat off to women who have twins.
Mm-hmm.
And because in that moment, unless you walk that walk, stop judging people.
Yes.
You don't understand life happening to them. This day and age, we put a facade up. Some people with social media, we only put out the good things. We put out the places we go, the pretty things we wear, right? But then when somebody snaps, everybody's like, oh my God.
Right. Eyes big eyes.
They were that. They had all this in life because social media has taught some of us this image, this mask they wear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes some of us assume that they got their life together when they don't.
Right.
They don't. Social media is actually, if you know them, because some people I look at social media and I'm like, they're crying out for help. Other people may see one thing, but they need help. They need help. But life happens to us all. And if you have life happening to you, let me take this opportunity to not only tune in every Saturday morning this month at 11 for our virtual Survivor series that will be streamed on Facebook, on YouTube, but also on Saturday and Twitch. But also on Saturday, October 22nd, we invite you to join us for a live in-person Life Happens One Day Symposium. So if you're in the DMV area, shucks, you don't even have to be in the DMV area. If you got enough money to hop a plane to BWI,
drive a car.
Or drive a car.
That's what I'm doing.
I don't like driving, y'all, so I will get on a plane. If a plane could get me to DC, and that's 45 minutes away, I would get on a plane. But I digress. But hop on a plane, drive your car, catch a train, just meet us on Saturday, October 22nd. Registration is now open. It is a $35 registration fee that includes the full day of information that we will have. It is for men and women. There will be 2 different sessions separating the sexes in the morning. We will have a lunch provided from Panera Bread, and then we will come together in the afternoon session so we can hear each other's hearts. We can't solve all our life happen issues in one day, but we want to be able to give you some tools to be able to go through life, make some connections, network with people so you'll know who to reach out to when life continues to happen. And it will. We will make sure to post the registration link in the comments. Make sure you like and follow the Lioness Den because we will continue to post about Survivor Series. Yes, what you said.
And let's not forget our keynote speaker. So our keynote speaker is the wonderful, and I only sing her praises, Miss LaDawn Bridges. She's a certified clinician who's going to come and talk to us about life happening. Guys, you really, I promise you, you don't want to miss the girl next door because that's who she is. That's my official title for her. She's the girl next door, that best friend that you talk to. You just talk to her and she has like all of these wonderful anecdotes to tell you about everything, but she understands. You don't want to miss her, Miss LaDawn Bridges. And she is driving all the way from North Carolina, guys, to share with us. So please make it there. You don't want to miss it. I'm sorry. I'm turning it back over to her.
No, you're fine.
I'm jumping into her space.
You fine. And if you've been following the Lioness Den, some familiar faces will be there. Yeah, I'll be there. We will also have the Bishop, Mark James, helping out with some of the men's session. Pastor Pete Andre Wilson, my lovely husband, has been helping out with the men's session. If you did not see the special Father's edition of Lioness Den, please go back and search social media so you can catch the men in action. We love our men. We will also have Pastor Charlie Taylor with us. And if you know any of the mental health sessions that the Lioness Den have had, we will have 3 amazing ladies that continue to come back to be with us all of the time. And Lydia know them best, so I will let her give you the rundown about these 3 amazing ladies.
So we have Miss Ebony Vaughn, who is also a clinician, and Ebony is a wealth of information. You guys really, if you've ever listened to the Lioness Den or the mental health conference, Ebony is there, and she's always giving off great information to help us along our way. Then we have the dream coach herself, Miss Adrienne Holloman, the dream coach. Let me tell you, if you are trying to figure it out, she's going to be there, and she's going to be talking about life happening while you're trying to accomplish your dream. And to top it all off, we got Nurse Tammy, y'all. Now, y'all know Nurse Tammy is the for real. You're not going to, she's not going to sugarcoat it, but she's going to talk to us too. And she's going to be part of our communications panel that will happen after lunch. So look, you really don't want to miss this event. We still have a few others that will come because we're going to have from the men's session, we're going to have my brothers, the duo of Alonzo and Guy Chapman. And we're also going to have Mr. James Conner. So all of these are, I don't want to say regulars, but they frequent the Lioness Den when we do stuff, and they always bring us great information and share with us. And this, I want you also to understand, nobody will talk at you on this day. This is not a day of talking at you, but every session will be a roundtable discussion. So a lot of times you go to conferences and people talk at you. We will not talk at you. I promise that you will not be talked at, not in the women's or the men's session, but we will talk to you, and we're all going to talk, and we're all going to share. And on the 22nd, it will not be aired live because we want it to be even safer than we usually have it. So we want people to be able to be vulnerable, talking about real situations that they're in right now. Life is happening even now. And sometimes when life is happening, we can't talk about it on Facebook. That's just the truth. We can't talk about it on Facebook. It's very serious. And we want to help somebody. And we want to share some tools. And so it will not be aired on Facebook. We will be back on the 29th, still talking about life happening. But the 22nd, we will not be airing on the 22nd because that is a day where we come together and share with one another and love on one another. And, roundtable style, I guess I should say, where we are, level to level talking and sharing. So please get your tickets, register. The Connect Church has so generously offered to partner in this particular event. And I thank you, Lady Wilson and Pastor Wilson, for always, I talk about Bishop Mark, and he is always willing, as you know, because he's on here talking with us. Every so often he's here, being our spiritual guru, him and Pastor Andre. But I thank you guys, guys, if you don't know what it's like to have a friend when life is happening, the Wilsons have been those friends to me when life has happened. And so I think I truly appreciate them for that. And with that, we are partnering this time for the Life Happenings portion of the Survivor Series. So join us, as Lady Wilson has been saying. I'm supposed to be letting her host. I feel like I keep.
You fine. It's okay. It's in her. It's almost ingrained in her. She's been doing it for over a year now. So she just wants to take over, and I'm like, I got it. No, but please join us. Register, as we said. We've already posted in the Lions Den. It will be, the link to register will be posted in the chat. And if you can't make it, be nice and send somebody else. Bless somebody else. Pay it forward. If you know somebody who can't afford it because life is happening to them, bring them with you. submit a registration for them because they may need it in this time. So pay it forward, be a blessing. We hope to see you all there. But even if you can't come on the 22nd, be sure to tune in every Saturday, every other Saturday in October at 11 a.m.
And all of the virtual sessions are free.
Yeah.
I just want
all you got to do is click on the link and watch.
All the virtual sessions are free. The only thing that you would pay for would be the in-person session. And that's just so that we can feed you breakfast and lunch.
Yes. It's a small registration fee.
It's a small registration fee. So that's it. I'm stepping back down again.
It's okay. We tag team. We do this. We got this. The tag team is great. It's awesome, right? And one more thing, if you got a group of women, you got a women's group or group of women in your church, 10 or more, you get $5. $5 or men. Yes, let's not forget our men. 10 or more, you get $5 knocked off the registration, so it would just be $30 for the registration. All that information is on the link when you register. So register right now and come join us on the 22nd. All right. So that is our time for the day. We thank God. Everybody give virtual applause to Lydia Chapman, the proud president, CEO. Let's just turn the Lioness Den into a whole nonprofit organization. So we just gonna speak it out there. We give reverence to the president, CEO of the Lioness Den. All right. We thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to join every Saturday and just like and follow, as I said, for all the special events that the Lioness Den brings to you for free. For free. The events come to you for free. This October 22nd will be the first paid event that require registration. So follow the page to make sure you catch up on all the information that we bring to you for free. It's fun. It's informational. I know you will enjoy, be inspired, and learn something. All right. We thank God for you joining us today. We pray you have an amazing Saturday. Goodbye.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you've tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. Getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner.
Bye.